about what first interested you in coming to Dynamic Health Technologies. How did you hear about us?
Well, I do a lot of reading about alternative health, but I was aware that this existed a little over a year and a half ago. But in October of 2013, last year, I had been hospitalized with tightness in my chest, and the cardiologist came in that night and said, well, you're going to have your 5th heart attack any day now, or your heart will just stop, and we need to rush you into the cath lab first thing tomorrow at 6 o'clock and get things started. And he couldn't answer my questions as to what they might do, and I've had so many heart procedures over the years that and when I was hospitalized in Rapid City and Regional in December 2012, that surgeon had told me, he said, well, you can't have another open heart, you've got too much scar tissue.
You've had open heart, you've had stents,
right.
You've had ablations?
No, in 2002 I suffered 2 heart attacks. I had a quadruple bypass with a lot of complications. Very, very Spartan, very rugged surgery, open heart. In 2010 I suffered my 3rd heart attack. In 2004 I suffered my 4th, and I also had a blood clot in my heart in connection with it. In fact, they showed it to me. It was about that long.
Wow.
And then in December, in 2000, that was third one was in 2010 in July, and the 4th heart attack was in July of 2011. In December of 2011, well, the stents had failed or closed up, and so I was flown via a life flight to Loveland, Colorado, and they put yet more stents in me. So I've been stented 4 separate times, multiple stents. I have a total of 9 stents in my heart.
Okay. So you found out about EECP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you went. Where did you first hear about that technology?
Reading about it online.
Okay.
I was already seeing a naturopathic doctor in Fort Collins, and originally I had tried to get signed up for stem cell therapy out in California because it was do or die time.
Okay.
Completely, and they at first had started looking at me there at the Whitaker Wellness Institute, and then once they got my radiology images, they declined to treat me. They said, you're too high risk.
So you didn't go to Whitaker, and so your options for EECP were here, or I think it was Boise.
Okay.
Because you're not from Montana.
Not anymore. No. So just to complete that, why in early January we had driven to Scottsdale, Arizona, to the Mayo Clinic, and they had performed an angiogram, and they came back and they said, well, you have some occlusions in your upper left chamber of your heart, and there's nothing we can do for you. Go home. And so I was truly out of options. I mean, there wasn't a bunch of doctors out there saying take door A, B, or C. Those no longer existed.
You'd already burned up those bridges.
Yeah.
So you were on a lot of medications.
Yes.
Quite a few different medications to help control things.
Yes. And throughout all the period, even from the time I'd had my first 2 heart attacks in the bypass in 2002, I had tried to stay active. I knew the value of walking and of exercise, of course within reason, whatever a person can tolerate, and I'd always tried to do that, but this past year with that trouble, it just gotten progressively more difficult, and I developed angina, tightness in my chest, shortness of breath, and it was just steadily reducing the amount and frequency that I could exercise.
Very good. So you called us.
Correct.
And asked if we would be able to take you on. So we brought your records, but we had to go through a specific screening. In fact, it took a few visits to make sure that you were okay to go.
It was
a little bumpy at the beginning, wasn't it?
Exactly. I have to make a comment here. The entire staff is so professional, and you played an instrumental role in getting me set up and get through this. That I had taken a period of over 3 weeks actually it took almost over 5 weeks to get my medical records from Mayo Clinic, and it was just becoming extremely frustrating because it was just, daily, on the phone for an hour or two, and it seemed like progress was minimal or nil.
Yeah.
And you played an instrumental role.
Well, I just connected dots that needed to be connected. Yeah. Very good. So then we got you here, and we took a few times to make sure that you were safe to hook up with the EECP. Okay.
That's right. The first week, they read me, especially the first 2 or 3 days. First 4 or 5 days, we did one session daily, a 1-hour session.
And pretty light pressure.
Yeah, at lower pressures.
Pretty careful.
I think the highest those first few days was like 160.
Yeah.
And then starting about the 5th day, the nurse saw that I could tolerate it well, and they bumped me to 2 sessions daily, and then we took the pressure up to 240. And at the end of the first week, I could tell that I had some mild improvement. And I thought, well, that's encouraging, and I'm just hang in there. Mentally, I was telling myself, don't get too high, don't get too low. Just, I didn't really know what to expect.
Right. So did you have any soreness, or some people have soreness in their muscles or back or anything like that?
Very little.
Okay, so it was really tolerable.
I had one day I had a little twinge in my hamstring in one leg. I mean, it was only for a few hours, and then another day I had a little soreness in one calf muscle. But really, it was very minimal, and it passed quickly.
Very good. So then we started twice a day.
Correct.
So we're trying to get all of your 7 weeks done in about 5 weeks, so that it's a much shorter period of time.
Right.
So you can get home.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too I noticed, Carol, is by the end of the 2nd week, as I walked out of here, I was walking back and forth from the bed and breakfast I'm staying, and I've noticed I was just cruising up the hills. I didn't have to stop to catch my breath, and I had no discomfort whatsoever. And to myself, I said, I've turned the corner.
There you go. So that was after about 15 sessions.
Yes.
Right. So typically that wouldn't happen in 2 weeks, but for you, because we were twice a day, we had gotten about 15 EECP treatments in, right?
Yes.
Very good. So after that, what have you noticed? Now you're just about to graduate. We've almost got the 35 done. You're getting really close.
Well,
what have you noticed now?
I have to share this story with you. Last weekend I went to Great Falls to visit a cousin of mine. In fact, I had stayed there prior to coming to Helena to start the therapy, and we had gone out one afternoon for a walk. As it turned out, it was a very short walk, only a few hundred yards. I had to stop 4 or 5 times because of the shortness of my breath.
So this is when you first got here?
Yeah, before I started the therapy.
Before we actually started?
Right,
Okay.
before I started my therapy. And so anyway, this weekend I wanted to go back, and I visited my cousin again, the same one, and she was inquiring, well, how's it going? What are you seeing? Is it benefiting you? And I said, well, why don't we go for a walk tomorrow afternoon? I'll give you a little test sample. And anyway, we're walking. We'd walked about a quarter mile, and there was a little hill coming up, and I said, all right, here's your test sample. And I took off and I sprinted about 200 yards to the top of the hill, and then sprinted back to her. And she was just aghast, like she was speechless.
So you didn't have any pressure in your chest at that?
No.
Anything like that? So you've been able to walk and do?
Oh, yes. There are a number of times I've walked 3 or 4 miles. One thing that's really delighted me is I've found that I've been able to walk up hills, steep hills, and I don't even need to stop for a breather. And it's just, that to me, that's very exciting.
So part of that, the theory behind what you're experiencing is that it revascularizes your heart, which is so compromised. But coronary artery disease is also part of an arterial disease for your whole body. And this stimulates the production of vessels, new vessels, to grow everywhere. So you probably have a lot more vessels in your lungs as well as other areas of your body that have improved besides just your heart.
Oh, absolutely. Just to anecdotal evidence to be sure, but last night I went to the local football stadium. They have a track there. And I hadn't run in about a week, and I'm not in running condition as far as my legs and my feet.
Right, right.
But I ran a half mile in a decent time. In addition to that, there's been any number of times I've walked 3 or 4 miles at one period without any issues.
Very good. So, is there anything else that you've noticed as far as changes go?
Yeah, I'm diabetic. I have been for over 2 decades.
That's right.
And in the time that I've been here getting the therapy, prior to my starting the therapy, I was averaging. I have an insulin pump, so it's all recorded, and it's like a little computer, but all the records are there available for you to access at any time. But I was averaging 69 units of insulin a day, and my insulin use has dropped over 11 units, and all at the same time while my blood sugar control's been very good.
Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you in Helena, and it's been great for you to come back. You are somewhat familiar with the area, and it's been good for you to be back, and certainly a great thing to be able to watch you progress.
Oh,
So
absolutely, Carol. Thank you. I owe you the world. I'd like to say that this markedly has improved my health. Not only that, but I mean, you're looking at a guy. In November, I was calling my pastor, telling him what songs I wanted sung at my funeral. So I owe you the world.
Welcome.